The first time Violet saw Liam, she knew her life would never be the same. At 22, she was just starting her career as a junior curator at the city's most prestigious art museum. Liam, the museum's 38-year-old director, exuded an aura of confidence and sophistication that both intimidated and enthralled her. Violet had always been drawn to older men, finding a maturity and depth in them that her peers lacked. But Liam was different. It wasn't just his salt and pepper hair, or the way his tailored suits accentuated his lean physique. There was an intensity in his gray eyes that seemed to peer into her very soul, awakening desires she'd never known existed. For weeks, their interactions were strictly professional. Violet threw herself into her work, determined to prove her worth. She stayed late, poring over catalogs and meticulously organizing upcoming exhibitions. Liam took notice, often finding excuses to check on her progress. One evening, as the museum emptied and the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the gallery windows, Liam approached Violet's desk. "You're dedicated, I'll give you that," he said, a hint of admiration in his voice. Violet looked up, startled. She hadn't realized anyone else was still there. "Oh, Mr. Blackwood, I didn't see you there." She fumbled with her papers, suddenly self-conscious. "Please, call me Liam," he insisted, leaning against her desk. "We're alone here. No need for formalities." The air between them crackled with tension. Violet's heart raced as Liam's eyes roamed over her face, lingering on her lips. "I've been watching you, Violet," he murmured. "Your passion for art, it's intoxicating." Before she could respond, Liam closed the distance between them, his lips capturing hers in a searing kiss. Violet's mind screamed that this was wrong. He was her boss. This could ruin her career. But her body betrayed her, melting into his embrace. That night marked the beginning of a torrid affair that would consume them both. Stolen moments in Liam's office, clandestine meetings in hidden corners of the museum after hours, and passionate encounters in anonymous hotel rooms became their norm. Violet was intoxicated by Liam's experience, his knowledge, and the way he made her feel both cherished and desired. For Liam, Violet was a breath of fresh air in his stagnant life. Her youthful enthusiasm and boundless creativity reignited his own passion for art. He found himself seeing the world through new eyes, rediscovering the joy that had led him to this career in the first place. But their relationship was far from simple. Liam was married, a fact that gnawed at Violet's conscience even as she reveled in their stolen moments together. His wife, Catherine, was a prominent socialite, and their marriage was as much a business arrangement as a romantic partnership. Liam assured Violet that his marriage was loveless, existing only for appearances, but the guilt still plagued her. Months passed, and their affair deepened. Violet found herself falling hopelessly in love with Liam, dreaming of a future where they could be together openly. Liam, too, seemed to be changing. He spoke of divorce, of starting a new life with Violet by his side. But the higher they soared, the further they had to fall. The annual charity gala, the museum's biggest event of the year, was fast approaching. Violet threw herself into the preparations, determined to make it a success. Liam worked closely with her, their professional collaboration only intensifying their personal connection. The night of the gala arrived, and Violet was a vision in a midnight blue gown that hugged her curves. Liam couldn't take his eyes off her, his gaze burning with desire even as he played the dutiful husband to Catherine. As the evening wore on, the champagne flowed freely, and inhibitions lowered. Violet found herself in a heated discussion about modern art with a potential donor, her passion and knowledge impressing the older gentleman. Liam watched from across the room, a mix of pride and jealousy warring within him. In a moment of recklessness, Liam pulled Violet into a secluded alcove. "You're incredible," he breathed, his hands roaming her body. "I can't stand seeing you with anyone else." Violet's head spun, torn between desire and the fear of discovery. "Liam, we can't, not here. Your wife—" "I don't care," Liam growled, silencing her with a kiss. Neither of them noticed the flash of a camera phone from around the corner. The next morning, Violet awoke to a world shattered. Photos of her and Liam in a passionate embrace were splashed across social media and local news sites. The scandal erupted like wildfire, engulfing both their personal and professional lives. Liam was forced to resign from his position, his reputation in tatters. Catherine filed for divorce, determined to take him for everything he was worth. Violet found herself ostracized at work, her promising career derailed before it had truly begun. In the aftermath, Violet expected Liam to stand by her, to fight for their love as he had promised. But as the pressure mounted and the stakes grew higher, she saw a side of him she'd never known existed. "I'm sorry, Violet," Liam said, his voice cold and distant as they met in a small cafe far from their usual haunts. "But I can't lose everything I've worked for. My lawyer advises me to distance myself from you completely." Violet felt as though she'd been doused in ice water. "Distance yourself? Liam, you said you loved me. You said we'd face anything together." "That was before," Liam replied, not meeting her eyes. "Things are different now. I have to think about my future, my career." "And what about my future?" Violet demanded, tears stinging her eyes. "My career is in shambles because of you." Liam had the grace to look ashamed, but his resolve didn't waver. "You're young, Violet. You'll bounce back. I'm sorry, but this is how it has to be." As Liam walked out of the cafe and out of her life, Violet felt something inside her shatter. The man she thought she knew, the love she thought they shared, it had all been a beautiful illusion. In the weeks that followed, Violet spiraled into depression. She lost her job at the museum, her reputation tarnished beyond repair in the close-knit art world. Friends distanced themselves, not wanting to be associated with the scandal. She spent days in bed, replaying every moment with Liam, trying to pinpoint where reality diverged from her fantasies. It was Catherine, of all people, who pulled Violet from the depths of her despair. The older woman contacted her, requesting a meeting. Violet agreed, more out of morbid curiosity than anything else. They met in a quiet park, away from prying eyes. Catherine, elegant even in casual clothes, regarded Violet with a mixture of pity and understanding. "I thought I should hate you," Catherine began, her voice surprisingly gentle. "But then I realized we're both victims of the same man." Violet listened, stunned, as Catherine unraveled the tapestry of lies Liam had woven. This wasn't his first affair, nor was their marriage as loveless as he'd claimed. Catherine had known about his indiscretions for years, but had chosen to look the other way for the sake of their shared social standing and financial interests. "Why are you telling me this?" Violet asked, her mind reeling. Catherine's smile was tinged with sadness. "Because you deserve to know the truth, and because I think together we might be able to reclaim what Liam has taken from us." That conversation marked the beginning of an unlikely alliance. Catherine, with her connections and resources, helped Violet rebuild her career. They started a foundation supporting young female artists, turning their shared pain into a force for good. As for Liam, his attempts to rehabilitate his image fell flat. Without Catherine's social clout or Violet's youthful energy to lean on, he found himself adrift. His efforts to reconcile with either woman were met with unified rejection. Years passed, and Violet found herself at another gala, this time as a respected curator in her own right. She caught a glimpse of Liam across the room, looking older and somehow diminished. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and Violet felt a flutter of something, not love or desire, but a complex mix of emotion she couldn't quite name. As she turned away, Violet realized that Liam no longer held any power over her. The passion that had once consumed her had burned itself out, leaving behind wisdom and strength she never knew she possessed. That night, as Violet stood before a striking new installation, a phoenix rising from ashes, created by a young artist she had mentored, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. The journey had been painful, filled with betrayal and heartache, but it had led her here, to a place of self-discovery and purpose. She thought of the young women she now mentored, warning them about the Liams of the world while encouraging them to embrace their passions fearlessly. She thought of Catherine, who had become an unexpected friend and ally. And she thought of herself, the naive girl she had been, and the resilient woman she had become. As she raised a glass to toast the artist, surrounded by colleagues who respected her for her talent and integrity, Violet smiled. The story of her and Liam was over, but her own story, rich with new possibilities and hard-won wisdom, was still being written. In the years that followed, Violet's life took turns she never could have anticipated during those heady days of her affair with Liam. Her partnership with Catherine blossomed into a powerful force in the art world, their foundation becoming known for discovering and nurturing groundbreaking talent. Violet found love again, this time with a kind-hearted art restorer named Marcus. Their relationship, built on mutual respect and shared passion, was a world away from the secretive, all-consuming affair she had had with Liam. With Marcus, Violet learned that true love could be both exciting and stable, passionate and comfortable. But the echoes of her past never fully faded. There were nights when Violet would wake, heart pounding from dreams of Liam's touch. The intensity of their connection, though built on lies, had left an indelible mark on her psyche. She learned to accept these moments not as weakness, but as reminders of how far she'd come. Liam, meanwhile, became a cautionary tale in their circles. His fall from grace was steep and unforgiving. Without Catherine's connections or Violet's fresh perspective, his work grew stale. He made attempts to reinvent himself, but the art world has a long memory, and doors that once opened eagerly for him now remained firmly shut. 5 years after their affair ended, Violet encountered Liam at an international art festival. She was there to introduce a promising new sculptor her foundation had sponsored. Liam, she learned, had managed to secure a small booth showcasing his own paintings, a far cry from the prestigious positions he once held. Their eyes met across the crowded exhibition hall, and Violet felt a jolt of recognition. Liam looked older, the lines around his eyes deeper, his once confident posture slightly stooped. For a moment, she saw a flicker of the man she had fallen in love with. Brilliant, passionate, full of dreams, but it was quickly overshadowed by the reality of who he truly was. To her surprise, Liam approached her. "Violet," he said, his voice carrying a weight of unspoken words, "you look radiant." Violet studied him, noting the hint of desperation in his eyes. "Thank you, Liam," she replied coolly. "I hope you're well." "I've been following your work with the foundation," Liam continued, a note of wistfulness in his voice. "You've done remarkable things. I always knew you were destined for greatness." Violet felt a flash of anger at his attempt to take credit for her success. "I've worked hard to get where I am," she said firmly. "My achievements are my own." Liam nodded, chastened. "Of course. I didn't mean to imply, He trailed off, seeming to shrink before her eyes. "I've made so many mistakes, Violet. I don't suppose... Is there any chance we could talk? Perhaps over coffee?" For a brief moment, Violet felt a pull, the ghost of the passion they once shared, the allure of what might have been. But as quickly as it came, it passed. She thought of Marcus, waiting for her back at their hotel. She thought of Catherine, who had become one of her closest friends and strongest allies. She thought of the young artists who looked up to her, counting on her guidance and integrity. "I'm sorry, Liam," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "But that chapter of my life is closed. I wish you well, truly, but we have nothing left to discuss." As she walked away, Violet felt a profound sense of closure. The last tendrils of what-ifs and might-have-beens fell away, leaving her feeling lighter, freer. That evening, as she stood on the stage introducing her foundation's latest protégé, Violet caught sight of Liam in the audience. Their eyes met for a brief moment, and she saw a mix of regret, admiration, and something that might have been pride in his gaze. She offered him a small, genuine smile, not of forgiveness exactly, but of acknowledgement. Their paths had crossed, leaving an indelible mark on both their lives, but now they diverged for good. As applause filled the hall and Violet basked in the glow of another successful launch, she realized that every step of her journey, the dizzying highs, the crushing lows, the betrayals and the triumphs, had led her to this moment. She had loved unwisely but fiercely, had been broken but refused to stay shattered, had faced her mistakes and grown from them. In the end, the affair that she thought would define her life had become just one chapter in a much richer, more complex story. Violet had emerged, not just survived, but transformed. Her passion redirected into creating opportunities for others, Her understanding of love and relationships deepened and matured. As she left the stage, her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Knocked it out of the park as usual. Can't wait to celebrate with you." Violet smiled, her heart full. The past might have shaped her, but it no longer controlled her. With her head held high, she walked out into the warm evening, ready to embrace whatever the future held, secure in the knowledge that she could weather any storm, face any challenge, and come out stronger on the other side. In that moment, under the starlit sky of a city that had witnessed her greatest triumphs and deepest sorrows, Violet realized that the most passionate, enduring love affair of her life was the one she had cultivated with herself, with her art, her principles, and the unbreakable spirit that had carried her through it all. And that, she knew, was a love that would never betray her.